That man carries an aura unlike any I have ever seen, Luo Qinghai said slowly, shaking his head. Such violent, baleful qi does not belong to an ordinary golden immortal. More importantly, I can sense an extremely terrifying power hidden within him, one he has yet to reveal. On top of that, he appears to be acquainted with Gongshu Ju, which suggests he is no minor figure within the heavenly court. Whether we could defeat him or not is beside the point. Making an attempt would invite immeasurable calamity upon our sect. That path cannot be taken. How can you be so certain, Grand Palace Master? Feng Hai asked. When the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor first opened, only 7 Infernal Frost scenic paintings appeared. I personally saw every cultivator who possessed one, yet none of them matched that man in appearance or aura. This leaves only one possibility, Luo Qinghai replied. He entered alongside Gongshu Ju using the 8th painting. Such an item would never be entrusted lightly. This alone proves their closeness. The others nodded in agreement. Then, what are we to do? Feng Hai asked bitterly. Are we truly going to hand over the water divination time arts? Silence fell across the hall. You have always had the clearest vision among us, Grand Palace Master, the green-faced elderly man said. The decision should rest with you. Luo Qinghai's gaze turned distant. This is the most turbulent era the Northern Glacial Immortal region has seen in hundreds of thousands of years. The Northern Glacial Immortal Palace, the Dawnfall Sect, and the Blaze Dragon Dao have all suffered devastating blows. Only our Vast Flow Palace remains largely unscathed. Chaos breeds opportunity. If we seize this moment, we may expand our strength and crush the Dawnfall Sect and Blaze Dragon Dao alike, claiming the position of the foremost sect in the Northern Glacial Immortal region. Excitement flashed through the eyes of the assembled Golden Immortals. Though Vast Flow Palace had long stood among the top 3 sects, it had always bowed beneath the other 2. To surpass them now promised both immense gains and boundless honor. What is your plan, Grand Palace Master? Feng Hai asked. Palace Master Tai and Palace Master Chu are indispensable to our ambitions, Luo Qinghai replied. Therefore, we shall exchange the water divination time arts for their nascent souls. I agree, the green-faced elder declared. The future of Vast Flow Palace outweighs any single cultivation art. Indeed, another added. That art is profound, yet painfully slow. Throughout our history, scarcely anyone has made true progress in it, and even the rare prodigies were soon surpassed by peers cultivating other laws. It is more burden than boon. A small price to pay for 2 golden immortal elders, others echoed. Though Feng Hai remained reluctant, he voiced no further objections. In that case, Luo Qinghai said, Elder Qingfu retrieve the water divination time arts. The green-faced elder departed at once. Hanli sat alone, idly turning a white crystal ball in his hand when footsteps approached. Luo Qinghai and the green-faced elder entered. How did your discussion conclude, Grand Palace Master Luo? Hanli asked. My apologies for the delay, fellow Taoist Liu. This is the water divination time arts, Luo Qinghai replied, placing a blue jade slip upon the tea table. You are wise indeed, Hanli said calmly, producing another white crystal ball containing a nascent soul. He tossed both crystal balls to Luo Qinghai and took the jade slip in return. Blue light flashed as Luo Qinghai inspected them, joy flickering across his face. The nascent souls had merely been sealed, not harmed, and could safely seize new bodies. Hanli briefly examined the jade slip before withdrawing his spiritual sense, surprise flashing in his eyes. Is something amiss? Luo Qinghai asked. Nothing at all. Our exchange is complete. I shall take my leave, Hanli replied. There is no need to hurry, Luo Qinghai said quickly. Why not remain at Vast Flow Palace for a few days so we may offer proper hospitality? That is unnecessary, Hanli said evenly. I know nothing of fellow Daoist Gongshu nor of the events within the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor. There is no reason to trouble yourself over me. Luo Qinghai stiffened for a moment, then smiled faintly. Very well. Elder Qingfu, please escort fellow Taoist Liu out. The green-faced elder complied, leading Hanli away before soaring into the distance. Luo Qinghai lingered at the hall entrance, watching them depart, then turned away in silence. Nearly a day later, a streak of azure light emerged from the ancient Point Mountain range and descended upon a quiet hill. Hanli appeared, turning back toward the mountains with a faint smile. Golden light flashed as Jintong appeared beside him. It was fortunate you accompanied me, Hanli said. Otherwise, matters would not have gone so smoothly. Within Vast Flow Palace, Hanli had fully concealed his own aura while assuming his giant mountain ape form, while Jin Tong released her late golden immortal pressure. The illusion that Hanli possessed such might alone had been enough to cow Luo Qinghai into submission. I still can't believe you gave those nascent souls away instead of letting me eat them. Jin Tong pouted. Hanli chuckled, producing another pair of golden immortal nascent souls. Jin Tong's displeasure vanished instantly as she seized them with delight. These souls had once belonged to Gongshuju's collection. There were still several remaining, likely gathered from the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor or elsewhere. Hanli retrieved the jade slip and smiled faintly. The illusory dawn treasured scripture from the Dawnfall sect had already reminded him of the Vast Flow Palace's water divination time arts. Since he intended to leave the northern glacial immortal region regardless, he saw no harm in claiming all 3 time attribute cultivation arts. At first glance, the water divination time arts differed from the mantra axis scripture and the illusory dawn treasured scripture, manifesting time laws through the essence of water. Yet to Hanli's surprise, all 3 shared subtle similarities. Could these 3 time attribute arts be connected? He pondered briefly, then shook his head and stowed the jade slip away. His priority remained departure. Deeper study could wait. With a sweep of his sleeve, the green jade flying carriage appeared. Hanli gathered Jin Tong in a flash of azure light and boarded, the carriage shooting forth toward the primordial land in a streak of green radiance. In a distant realm, countless kilometers away, the sky shone a radiant blue, white clouds drifting lazily as spirit birds soared through the air. Light reigned everywhere, as though darkness itself had been banished. Above the clouds hovered an immense world of floating mountains, stretching endlessly. Some peaks rose only tens of thousands of feet, while others towered millions high. Upon each stood majestic buildings of varied design, all radiating dazzling golden light. Rainbow bridges linked the mountains, forming a breathtaking panorama. At the center hovered a massive peak, millions of feet tall and etched with radiant golden patterns, surrounded by a dozen smaller mountains like stars around the moon. Upon its summit stood a resplendent golden palace, 1,000 feet tall and forged from unknown golden jade. Above its gates hung a silver plaque inscribed with the words, Dawn Void Palace. Around the central peak lay medicine gardens, pill chambers, and estates. Upon the nearest mountain stood a vast manor housing numerous immortals, tended by young servants. At that moment, a streak of white light tore through the sky, sweeping past the estate and surging toward the golden peak. Terrifying spiritual pressure poured forth, forcing a massive azure barrier to rise around the estate. Even so, some pressure seeped through, sending immortal beasts into panic and servants collapsing, pale-faced to the ground. Only once the pressure vanished did they rise again, gazes filled with awe and yearning as they stared toward the distant palace. Toward the distant palace. Who was that just now? That aura was terrifying. A tall, thin youth stared toward the summit of the colossal golden peak, his eyes shining with excitement. You've only just been assigned to the Dawn Void Palace, so it's normal that you don't recognize him, an elderly servant replied calmly. That was Shu Yunping, the 5th disciple under the Dawn Void Immortal Lord. Every time I see Master Shu, he feels even stronger than before, another servant with thick, bushy brows murmured in admiration. I heard Master Shu has been in long-term seclusion, trying to break through the bottleneck of the mid-high zenith stage, the older servant said thoughtfully. Now that he's emerged, he's likely succeeded. However, his cultivation hasn't fully stabilized yet. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such obvious leakage of spiritual pressure. Master Shu ascended from a lower realm and still reached the mid-high zenith stage as an immortal lord's sole disciple. If I had even 100th of that talent, I wouldn't be stuck doing menial work here, the bushy-browed servant sighed. His aptitude is extraordinary even among the immortal lord's disciples. Comparing ourselves to him is pointless. The older servant said with a bitter chuckle. With that, the servants returned to their duties. At the summit of the golden mountain, a streak of white light descended before the palace gates, fading to reveal a young man in golden robes. His features were refined and sharp, with bright eyes and sword-like brows, and a keen, piercing presence surrounded him. 2 guards clad in golden armor stood watch on either side of the palace, their skin gleaming faintly like metal. "Is Master inside?" the golden-robed youth asked. "He is," one guard replied. Nodding, the youth entered the palace, passing through several corridors before arriving at a side hall. The hall stood empty save for a silver platform upon which rested a golden chair. Seated there was a middle-aged man in purple robes. His complexion was dark, his bearing authoritative. His eyes were closed, purple light pulsing from his body as faint violet mist coiled around him. With each breath, the mist surged rhythmically, and the space itself trembled softly, as though the entire hall lay within his grasp. Hesitation flickered across the youth's face, but he clenched his teeth and stepped forward. "Disciple Xu Yunping pays his respects to Master." The man's eyelids quivered, then snapped open. A sharp, radiant gaze shot forth, causing Xu Yunping to shudder as his face paled. The gaze soon softened, the pressure withdrawing as the man spoke calmly. "What is it, Yunping?" "Master, news has arrived from the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace," Xu Yunping reported. Palace Master Xiao Jinhan entered the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor. The losses were catastrophic. Xiao Jinhan and several Golden Immortal elders perished within. The purple-robed man's expression did not change. Xiao Jinhan stood at the peak of the Golden Immortal stage. How did he fall? Only a few cultivators returned alive, and none know the exact circumstances, Xu Yunping said. However, Xiao Jinhan had long sought to unify the Northern Glacial Immortal region, creating great friction with the region's major powers. His death is likely tied to that conflict. "I am aware of his recent actions," the man said coldly. "Though aggressive, he was still a representative of the Heavenly Court. His death is unacceptable. Dispatch people at once. Investigate thoroughly. All those responsible must be slain. The authority of the Heavenly Court cannot be challenged. I've already sent investigators. Results should arrive soon," Xu Yunping replied. "Good. See that this matter is resolved," the man said. "There is one more thing, Master," Xu Yunping added. "Speak." Immortal Envoy Gongshu of the Immortal Prison also entered the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor while pursuing members of the Reincarnation Palace. He appears to have perished as well. "Gongshu? Gongshu Ju of the Gongshu clan?" the man asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes. He was a high zenith stage Jade Immortal. There should be no one in the Northern Glacial Immortal region capable of killing him," the man said as he rose. "Could this be the work of the Reincarnation Palace?" "The details remain unclear," Xu Yunping said. "If the Reincarnation Palace had sent high zenith cultivators, we would have discovered it. Should we investigate further?" "There's no need," the man replied. "The Immortal Prison operates independently. They will handle their own affairs." "Yes, Master." "You've handled this well," the man said. "The Northern Glacial Immortal region falls under my jurisdiction. It must not descend into disorder. Arrange for the selection of a new palace master immediately." Xu Yunping bowed and departed. Left alone, the purple-robed man paced slowly, eyes clouded in thought. Moments later, he halted and vanished in a flash of purple light. Far across the sea to the southwest of the Upper R continent lay an even greater landmass, the primordial Edge continent. Its eastern region was a wilderness of towering mountains, dense forests, and treacherous terrain, with few cities scattered throughout. Nearly 100,000 kilometers inland rose a colossal cliff over 10,000 feet tall, stretching millions of kilometers from north to south, cleaving the continent in two. Above it lay a vast oasis. Below it, an endless desert. Crowning the cliff was a city sprawling tens of thousands of kilometers like a black dragon at rest. Passes filled with restrictions and beacon towers guarded its length, yet along the border there stood only this single city, Primordial Origin City. As dusk fell, the sun dipped beyond the city walls, its lingering warmth casting a soft glow upon the cold black stone. Below the cliff, the desert sands shimmered gold in the fading light, stirred only by a gentle breeze. On the opposite side of the wall sprawled a massive city, hundreds of kilometers wide, its streets and alleys ablaze with light, even before night had fully arrived. Aside from its orderly central district, the rest of the city spread eastward, in chaotic fashion. Along the ancient road leading toward the outskirts, two figures walked side by side, one tall, one small. The smaller was a little girl of 8 or 9, dressed in a festive red coat trimmed with gold embroidery, holding 3 tangulus. Beside her walked a tall man in an azure robe. They were Han Li and Jin Tong. The first destination marked on the map given by Worm 3 matched the place Taoist Hu Yan had mentioned. Upon reaching Primordial Origin City, Han Li decided to gather information before venturing into the primordial land. Why do I have to hide my cultivation, uncle? Jin Tong asked between bites of candied fruit. Your late golden immortal aura would draw too much attention here, Han Li replied, gazing toward the city's edge. But wouldn't that be fun? Jin Tong said eagerly. If a few golden immortals attack us and we kill them, I'll have more snacks. I've been hungry all the time lately. Our priority is leaving the northern glacial immortal region, Han Li said sternly. You're not allowed to cause trouble. Otherwise, I'll turn you into a ring and keep you on my finger. Don't. Fine, I'll behave, Jin Tong muttered reluctantly. As they spoke, the two stepped into the outer city of Primordial Origin City. The outer city streets were mired in mud, flanked by low brick and tile houses. Crude tables stood before most shops, cluttered with wares meant for mortal hands. Han Li swept his gaze over them without pause. Such trifles held no appeal for him. As they drew closer to the inner city, the streets broadened and straightened, the buildings rising taller and grander. Yet compared with other continents of the northern glacial immortal region, the architectural style here felt distinctly different. Cylindrical pillars were scarce, intricate carvings rarer still. The structures were plain, even coarse, lacking refinement and deliberate artistry. The goods sold along the streets only emphasized how unlike this place was from the rest of the region. Though night was falling, the streets remained lively. With only a short walk, Han Li noticed many foreign beings. Strange of form, stranger still in attire, seldom seen elsewhere. This was hardly surprising given the continent's position at the border of the northern glacial immortal region. Something smells amazing, uncle, Jin Tong exclaimed after finishing the tangulu in her hand. In a flash, she darted toward a roadside stall. Behind the stall stood a dark-skinned, broad-shouldered man who smiled warmly. What would you like, little one? Beside him sat a massive copper pot, oil roiling within. On the nearby table lay freshly fried food, unsightly at a glance, yet rich with an irresistible aroma. Han Li frowned slightly as his eyes swept over the offerings. There were thick, arm-sized appendages, giant pincers as large as tables, and even a single eyeball from some unknown beast, all fried to a crisp, gleaming gold. You really want to eat this? Han Li asked. I do. I'll take everything, Jin Tong declared. With a casual sweep of her hand, all the food vanished into her storage bracelet. Han Li sighed and paid the stall owner, who was beaming with delight at such a sale. Deeper into the city they went, the crowds thickening by the moment. Vendors shouted themselves hoarse, arguments flared openly, curses flying without restraint. In certain corners, scantily clad women leaned against railings or doorways, fans fluttering, sleeves swaying as they beckoned passers-by. Most of the city's inhabitants were mortals, with some cultivators mixed in, though nearly all possessed meager cultivation. Han Li listened carefully, hoping to glean something useful, but the chatter proved worthless. In the end, he seized Jin Tong's arm and rose into the air, flying straight toward the inner city. From above, countless points of light shimmered below. Han Li's brows lifted as understanding dawned. So the entire city forms a grand array. The larger it grows, the more stable it becomes. No wonder there are no city walls. Remarkable. What's so remarkable, uncle? Jin Tong asked, crunching on a massive fried pincer. Han Li chuckled softly. Just eat. The inner city was a world apart. Buildings here were finely constructed, etched with ornate engravings, yet all depicted unfamiliar, bizarre beasts. Shops and eateries had become three-story pavilions, interspersed with large inns. What caught Han Li's attention most were the enormous hemispherical structures that appeared every few streets. These places thrummed with noise and life. Each had 4 entrances, their walls covered in defensive runes, and from within came waves of wild cheering. It sounds fun. Let's take a look, Jin Tong said, eyes bright. They're beast arenas, Han Li replied calmly. Creatures fight while spectators gamble. Jin Tong immediately lost interest. We'll rest here for the night, Han Li said, glancing at the star-filled sky. Tomorrow, we head to the primordial land. Do as you like, uncle. I'm sleepy, Jin Tong replied. She shrank into a tiny golden beetle, settling onto Han Li's finger as a ring. Smiling helplessly, Hanli continued toward the city's core. The buildings gradually thinned, not from decline, but because every structure here was arranged according to the grand array. Too many constructions would disrupt its balance. At the entrance of one street stood a tall, crimson archway. Dragons and phoenixes coiled along its pillars, and a plaque above bore the name Faint Smoke Garden. With his bright sight spirit eyes, Hanli saw that the world's origin chi beyond the archway was far denser than elsewhere. As he approached, he noticed a black wooden sign. Only cultivators at or above the deity transformation stage allowed. Stepping through, he was greeted by a tall, slender woman in palace robes. Her manners were flawless, her smile polite yet distant. "Welcome, esteemed guest." "Do you have rooms available?" Hanli asked. "There is a vacant room in the B-grade garden, quiet and secluded." "There are grades?" Hanli raised a brow. "Any A-grade rooms available?" The woman smiled apologetically. "All immortal inns here divide rooms into 4 grades. A-grade rooms are reserved for true immortal cultivators and above. With your Grand Ascension stage cultivation, a B-grade room is most appropriate." "That will do," Hanli said lightly. He intended to stay only one night. The woman hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to know the price?" "Send food and wine to my room. I'll settle everything tomorrow," Hanli replied, indifferently, "as you wish." She led him through the rear hall and along winding corridors toward the garden. As they walked, she spoke softly. "If this is your first visit, you might consider staying longer. There are many places worth seeing." "What sort of places?" Hanli asked. "The city's origins are unknown," she explained. "It has been destroyed many times in wars between cultivators and primordial beasts. The current city was rebuilt after the last Great War, with support from all major sects of the northern glacial immortal region." "So the beasts once breached the city?" Hanli asked. "Yes, they were led by primordial true spirits," she replied. "Who governs the city now?" "Because of its location, the city is overseen by the city lord's manor. The major sects do not interfere, but though they maintain good relations and send aid when needed." "And the Immortal Palace?" Hanli pressed. "They once sought control, but were opposed by all major sects. The city lord is a golden immortal at the pinnacle, so they could not seize power. However," her voice faltered. Hanli prompted calmly. "However, after the Blaze Dragon Dao incident, the entire northern glacial immortal region may change. Primordial Origin City could be affected as well." Hearing this, Hanli felt a quiet sense of relief. It seemed the events at the Infernal Frost Immortal Manor had yet to spread this far. At least for now, the city remained blissfully unaware. "Indeed, of late, there has been unrest stirring within the northern glacial immortal region," Hanli said calmly. "May I inquire as to your purpose for coming to Primordial Origin City, esteemed guest?" the woman asked softly. "To be frank, I intend to depart for the primordial land tomorrow," Hanli replied without concealment. "You're leaving the city?" The woman halted in surprise, her expression shifting. "Will you be traveling with others?" "I travel best alone," Hanli said, shaking his head. "Forgive my intrusion, but with your current cultivation, venturing out alone would be no different from casting yourself before hungry wolves," the woman said, bowing apologetically. "Oh? Is there truly such danger beyond the city walls?" Hanli asked, eyes narrowing slightly. "Beyond Primordial Origin City lies an endless sea of sand, riddled with bottomless natural sand traps. Even cultivators cannot traverse that terrain, and beasts from other deserts perish there as well. Only the great ships within the city can cross it safely," she explained. "Then why not simply fly across?" Hanli asked. "Are there dangers in the skies too?" Even a golden immortal would hesitate to take an aerial route. This city lies close to the primordial land, and powerful primordial beings often roam the sands. Many late true immortal cultivators have met gruesome ends after encountering such creatures," the woman said solemnly. Her tone carried no hint of exaggeration, and Hanli fell silent in thought. "Moreover, the sea of sand is rife with mirages and illusions. If fortune smiles, one may wander back to the city after centuries. If not—" Her words trailed off, yet the meaning was unmistakable. "Then where does one board these ships?" Hanli asked at last. "The docks lie near the beacon tower at the western city gate. The ships sail only twice a year, but you are fortunate. The next departure is in half a month. If cultivators risk attack upon entering the Sea of Sand, Wouldn't a ship full of them draw even greater danger? Hanli asked, puzzled. Rest assured, these vessels are forged by the City Lord's manor itself and are equipped with mechanisms that completely conceal their aura from primordial beings. So, passage is guaranteed? Hanli raised a brow. In this world, nothing is ever guaranteed, the woman replied with a bitter smile. 8 years ago, one ship was destroyed by a primordial true spirit. Very few survived. If its aura was hidden, how was it discovered? Hanli asked, startled. As they spoke, they arrived at the rear courtyard. I heard that a true immortal stage primordial hunter aboard that ship had slaughtered a nest of juvenile nine-eyed centipedes. The parent, also a true immortal, was away at the time. It later detected the hunter's bloodline aura from the blood he shed, and disaster followed. Primordial hunters, those who enter the primordial land to hunt beasts? Hanli asked. Yes, and more than that, they also seek rare plants, ores, gemstones, and countless other resources unique to the primordial land. With so many hunters over the years, has no one ever pieced together a map of the primordial land? Hanli asked. None at all. Any merchant claiming to sell such a map is deceiving you, she said, shaking her head. Why so? Though many have entered, only small regions near the outskirts have been explored. Those who ventured deep and returned alive were mighty beings at or above the golden immortal stage. It's said only high zenith cultivators have ever crossed the primordial land to reach the neighboring Black Mountain immortal region. Such figures are exceedingly rare, and none would trouble themselves to chart the land for others. That is only reasonable, Hanli murmured. You came here hoping to become a primordial hunter as well, didn't you? The woman said. I advise you to confine yourself to the known regions. Even there, bounties abound. As they spoke, they arrived before a courtyard in the B-grade garden. Hanli surveyed it carefully. The buildings formed a triangular arrangement. A main hall at the center, flanked by 2 side rooms, with a small garden of blooming flowers and young immortal plants nestled between. The woman produced an azure jade badge engraved with the words, Rain-Hearing Courtyard, and swept it through the air. The surrounding restriction parted at once, and a fragrant breeze drifted out as 2 maidservants stepped forward and bowed deeply. These 2 are core formation cultivators, still pure. If you take interest, it would be their honor. Otherwise, they may simply attend to household duties, the woman said, offering the jade badge with both hands. I have no need of servants, Hanli replied evenly as he accepted it. I am accustomed to solitude. The maidservants, both striking in appearance, showed a flicker of disappointment but remained silent. Very well, I shall not disturb you further. The wine and food you ordered will arrive shortly, the woman said. You have my thanks, Hanli replied, tossing her a brocade pouch. She caught it discreetly and examined its contents beneath her sleeve. Shock and delight flashed across her face. Such generosity. Would you care to move to an A-grade courtyard instead? This will suffice. You may go, Hanli said, waving her off as he entered. Watching his retreating figure, the woman smiled faintly and drew out a top-grade spirit stone from the pouch, studying it with admiration. The next morning, Hanli departed from Faint Smoke Garden at dawn. After a full night's rest, Jin Tong was brimming with energy and had already gathered an impressive assortment of street food. Are we leaving now, Uncle? She asked reluctantly. There's no need to rush, Hanli replied vaguely as he headed toward the western city gate, soon arriving at the docks. What are we doing here? Jin Tong asked. Wait for me a moment, Hanli said. Entering a nearby black building, he emerged shortly after with a black talisman engraved with the image of a great ship. What's this? Jin Tong asked, snatching it up curiously. A ship ticket, Hanli replied, briefly explaining their plans. With our strength, flying across would be far faster, Jin Tong pouted. This will be our first venture into the primordial land. Caution is wiser, Hanli said with a smile. If a ship exists, why not make use of it? Jin Tong pondered briefly, then shrugged and returned to her food. Stowing the ticket away, Hanli re-entered the bustling streets. Though his storage was full, most items came from others and might not suit him. Preparation was necessary. Given the city's proximity to the primordial land, rare resources unique to that realm were sure to be sold here. Primordial Origin City was immense, many areas shielded by restrictions impervious to spiritual sense. Wandering blindly would waste time, so Han Li entered a variety shop and purchased a guidebook for newcomers. After reading it, he gained a rough understanding of the city's layout and pressed on. Soon, he arrived in the inner city's most prosperous district, a vast plaza of gleaming white jade. Nearly 100 broad streets radiated outward, while above the plaza hovered a palace seemingly carved entirely from pristine jade. Countless white runes swirled around it, releasing waves of radiant light that bathed the plaza and surrounding streets. This was the largest commercial hub in Primordial Origin's city, and it more than lived up to its fame. Hanli paused at the mouth of the street, lifting his gaze to the white palace floating high above, his expression calm yet contemplative. According to the records he had read, this palace was erected by the Lord of Primordial Origin City, a lofty seat from which the entire street below could be observed at a glance. Primordial Origin City lay at the border of the Immortal region and was famed for its disorder and danger. Yet this street was an exception. Here, peace reigned unfailingly. Combat was strictly forbidden, and violators were punished without mercy, some even slain on the spot. As years passed, the floating palace came to embody absolute authority, a silent reminder of power etched into the hearts of the city's cultivators. Han Li soon withdrew his gaze and surveyed his surroundings instead. Though countless streets branched out from the plaza, the layout was immaculate rather than chaotic. Each road had clearly been planned with care, and every street specialized in a single category of trade: materials, spirit treasures, pills, each in its proper place. After a brief observation, Han Li stepped onto one of the broader avenues. This street bustled with life, lined with shops selling spirit plants of every kind. He headed toward one of the larger stores, but just as he was about to enter, he halted abruptly and frowned, turning to look behind him. Jin Tong was gone. Releasing his spiritual sense, Han Li quickly located her. She had once again darted off toward the nearby food stalls. He shook his head helplessly, but did not summon her back. Though her cultivation did not yet place her among the absolute pinnacle of the northern glacial immortal region, he was certain that no one in Primordial Origin City could pose a threat to her. With that thought, Hanli entered the shop. It spanned several thousand feet, its shelves densely packed with spirit plants and various materials. Many cultivators were already browsing inside, and an azure-robed attendant soon approached him with a polite smile. "How may I assist you, esteemed customer? We offer the widest selection and the lowest prices in Primordial Origin City." "I'll browse on my own," Hanli replied lightly, waving his hand. The attendant agreed, yet continued to follow at a respectful distance. Hanli's gaze swept across the shelves, and he nodded inwardly. Owing to the city's remote location, the materials here were astonishing. Many were rare even elsewhere, and most of the spirit beast materials were unfamiliar to him, clearly sourced from beyond the northern glacial immortal region. Thankfully, each item bore a placard detailing its name and use. Before long, Hanli had examined the entire floor, and a faint trace of disappointment appeared on his face. Though the materials were rare, their quality was lacking. Most were only suitable for cultivators below the true immortal stage. Catching his expression, the attendant hastened over and gestured toward a staircase. "Esteemed customer, if you seek higher grade materials, the first floor holds only ordinary wares. The true treasures are on the second floor." "Very well," Hanli said with a nod. The attendant led the way upward. The second floor held only 7 or 8 shelves, but each was crafted from superior materials and refined in design. Hanli's eyes brightened at once. The spiritual power here far surpassed that below. Nearly all were suitable for true immortals, with a few even usable by golden immortals. As he walked along the shelves, Hanli suddenly stopped, his gaze fixing on a crimson vine. "This is Heavenly Siphon Vine," the attendant explained. "A rare item obtained recently from a primordial hunter." "Let me see it," Hanli said. The attendant produced a badge, dispelled the restriction, and carefully handed the vine over. Hanli examined it closely, delight flashing in his eyes. This vine was a key ingredient for refining heavenly luster pills, recorded in the Huanan pill scripture. His luck had not been small. "I'll take it. What's the price?" he asked. "Heavenly siphon pills are effective even above the true immortal stage," the attendant replied after a moment's hesitation. "This vine is over 100,000 years old, 350 immortal origin stones. It was a steep price for most late true immortals, yet Hanli answered without pause, I'll take it. With over 2 million immortal origin stones at his disposal, such a sum meant little to him. The attendant was overjoyed. Hanli continued browsing, but found nothing else of use. Soon after, he left the shop with the vine in hand. Rather than depart the street, he entered another store nearby. Time flowed swiftly, and nearly an entire day passed as Hanli visited every materials shop in the area, collecting many useful items. Though smaller than the great cities of the Northern Glacial Immortal Palace, Primordial Origin City's position ensured a wealth of rare resources. No wonder the palace coveted it. Still, he found only a handful of heavenly luster pill ingredients. Many remained missing. Unlike the infernal azure pills, whose ingredients Xiao Jinhan had nearly completed for him, this pill would require further searching. Hanli was not troubled. Once he entered the primordial land, opportunities would surely arise. Leaving the materials district, he stepped onto a street of variety stores and entered the largest among them, soon emerging with a gray jade slip. It contained a map of the primordial land, compiled from information purchased from primordial hunters. The shopkeeper admitted they could not verify its accuracy, and it was for reference only. Hanli found this both amusing and exasperating. Having bought countless maps in his travels, this was the first so candidly unreliable one he had encountered. Yet, given the dangers of the primordial land, every map in the city shared the same flaw. Injecting his spiritual sense into the slip, Hanli studied its contents. The map was divided into white and gray regions. The white areas lay near Primordial Origin City and were richly detailed, listing demon beasts and resources. These were official routes explored by the city lord's forces and deemed reliable. The gray areas represented the unknown, annotated with unverified hunter reports. After pondering briefly, Hanli summoned another jade badge, the safe route map given by Worm 3. Comparing the two, he found the official sections nearly identical. Beyond them, however, the gray regions differed greatly, making it impossible to judge which was correct. With a thoughtful expression, Hanli continued visiting shops, purchasing dozens of maps. Somewhere among them, there had to be truths worth uncovering. When he finally stepped out of the last shop, night had fallen. White crystals lining the streets emitted a gentle glow, bathing the city in an ethereal radiance. Hanli's brows suddenly knit together. Through his spiritual connection, he sensed Jintong was still within the city, but her spiritual fluctuations trembled faintly, a sign that usually appeared when she was exhilarated in combat. Without delay, Hanli rushed toward her location, stopping before a massive dome-shaped palace. The entrance spanned over 100 feet and was crowded with people. This was one of Primordial Origin City's arenas, sealed by powerful restrictions that blocked all external sensing. Perplexed, Hanli stepped inside without hesitation.